Welcome. Today is Monday, March 4th, and am I ever grateful to be reaching you today. My name is Timothy Halloran. I'm an evolutionary astrologer. We're going to talk about some of the most profound astrology I have ever seen in my over 13 years of doing this work. And so first things first, I am thrilled to announce the completion of the core curriculum for my online astrology school. To celebrate, I am putting 25% off. That means 64 lessons, 42 hours of audio, over 500 pages of transcript, and every lesson comes with all three can be yours for $45. That's a $45 a month subscription. When you get your subscription on sale, that sticks. It's not just 25% off your first month, it's 25% off concurrently for as long as you keep your subscription. This again is to celebrate the completion of my online astrology school. Now I have to admit, at this point in time, I've never before been more excited, more afraid, more anxious, more terrified. It's absolutely overwhelming right now. And this is part of why. It does break my heart how few of souls can see just how profound what this time means. And my astrology school is not meant to simply train up future professional astrologers. This is a school for humans. Astrology is to learn how to be a human being. This is the language of God. Anyone who's serious in their spiritual journey, anyone who wants to understand nature or the language of God, that's what the school is for. That's what astrology is. This is going to interconnect everything. Your experience, what's going on in the world, what and why. And I'll even explain why the channel was taken down on the spring equinox that is joined Neptune this year, very symbolically due to a recent hack. Unfortunately, the YouTube support team was able to reclaim my compromised account, but boy, has that been a real wake-up call. So I highly suggest go to my main web pages, Rasalila Healing, RasalilaCommunity.com. There you can be sure you can stay in touch with me regardless of what happens. But no, that was not censorship. That was a hacking attempt. All right, now what is so profound about March going into April is we see personal planets aligning with outer planets, aligning with particular parts of the zodiac that are simply highlighted and profound. I'm sorry it's a little windy. I'll do my best to edit the sound. What we can see here, and I'm going to actually go inside so I can show you some of this on the computer. There's so much action taking place at the first degree of the zodiac. This is called the Aries Point. This is the beginning of our astrological year, Northern Hemisphere, spring equinox, the sun enters Aries. Now this year, Neptune is at the very last moments of his own sign of Neptune. This is an incredibly profound astrological reflection. I mean, Neptune is the furthest, most far out, spiritual, enigmatic, mysterious. Neptune is God. At the last degree of his own sign, at the most inconceivable, we're going through spiritual disillusionment. We're going through intense experiences of death and rebirth. We are being forced to surrender and let go due to unforeseen circumstances. And again, coincidentally, that is when this channel was taken down due to a hack. I was told during that time by YouTube that I would never be allowed to create content for YouTube again. So that scared the living pants off of me. There's going to be a lot of adjustments from this point going forward. But the point is That's a microcosmic example of some of what we can all be experiencing. This has not been easy astrology. And so let me cut straight to the chase. The main culprit has been Mars, and I've been talking about this for months. After reviewing the whole of 2024, I could not believe the astrology of this year. The amount of attention going to the mid degrees of the cardinal signs, where Chiron is at 22 degrees Aries right now. Last year, Chiron was roughly the same place. There's been so much attention to this part of the zodiac. If you look at your chart, and if you have planets at any degrees of the 4 cardinal signs, that's Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, we've been getting whacked by Chiron and this recent Mars retrograde. For each and every one of us has had this overall theme of regression, reflecting on the past, a whole life review, telling our story up till now. The whole intention of this Mars retrograde in Cancer is to form actual safety, to form an actual sense of family, to have a sense of familiarity where we can be seen and understood for who we are. We don't have to fight to be understood for who we are, and we are safe to share what we are feeling or experiencing as we are going through it. And as you have heard me say, this Mars retrograde, I do believe, is waking many of our more conscious, sensitive souls up to the fact that we very well could have been gaslit throughout our entire lives. This sensitivity, this empathy, for our world for thousands of years has been considered a hindrance. If something bad happens, if there's a conflict, if there's a boo-boo between people, we're not even supposed to talk about it. We're not supposed to get to resolution. We're just supposed to drop it and forget about it and move on like nothing ever happened. Or if you go through an incredible tragedy and you lose a family member, if you go through an insane breakup and you lose someone you love for 10 years, it really shocks me and breaks my heart how much this world orients towards this avoidance and pretend it never happened and skip and jump into the next distraction, which for each and all of us is going to cause all sorts of distortions, pathologies. We're going to go nuts if we lie to ourselves throughout our lives. So this specific Mars retrograde has been getting real through our own emotional storytelling. What has been the true story? What have we lived, or what have we survived? And it has not been a comfortable Mars retrograde. The fact that Mars stationed square to Chiron, Mars has been squaring Chiron from the end of 2024 up until now. Mars first squared Chiron October 2024, stationed retrograde, squared Chiron again in February, and is now going forward direct and will square Chiron once more. The next several days, exact on the 26th. Mars is barely moving forward. It is just like a teeth grinding. It's not normally like this. Mars-Chiron squares typically last a week. This one's lasted like 5 or 6 months. And a Mars-Chiron square can be incredibly debilitating. It challenges our motivation. It challenges our will to live. It challenges every aspect of our physicality and or health. We are challenged to find the energy to get up and go about our day. Again, much of this can have to do with Mars retrograde in the zodiac sign of Cancer. Do we really want to get up and do something where we don't feel supported and or recognized by the people that we love? So we've got Neptune, the most Christ-like planet of sacrifice, surrender, loss, unconditional love. Jesus on the crucifix is a lot of Chiron-Neptune stuff. Neptune on the Aries Point is the degree of the zodiac that most represents this crucifix aspect of life where death and resurrection occurs. What are we talking about the end of March into April? Death and resurrection. Need I say it once more? Death and resurrection. It's highlighted all over the astrology. That's why I want people to see this, so I'm not the only one shocked and amazed through the rest of my life. Saturn is closing into Neptune. This is called a balsamic phase conjunction. Balsamic phase, I'm not talking about vinegar. It's when one planet's about to pass the slower moving planet. This is like when a new hour begins on the clock, right? Well, the clock's actually based off of astronomy, just so you know, in the 12 zodiac signs. So this is the completion of a massive cycle. And what is happening while Saturn's balsamic to Neptune all year into spring of 2026? Dissolving, 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 dissolving. Particularly where? In the area of Saturn. Career, role in the world. Saturn rules the government, police, authorities, structures, rules, regulations, conditioned expectations and obligations, what you're supposed to do. And it is dissolving into something that hopefully aligns more of the essence of what humanity actually is. Neptune's the essence. So Saturn joining Neptune, that is the question we want to be asking ourselves as we can all be going through this dissolving, as we can all have this experience of being stripped naked or being stripped bare. And there are plenty of good, innocent people who have worked so hard to get their job that have just lost their job for no reason. This is real life. We can't pretend this stuff away. This dissolving of structures is one of the most overall significant long-term transits 2025 into the beginning of 2026. Why it is so particularly dialed up right now is we recently saw both Mercury and Venus station retrograde. The last couple of weeks, Mercury on the 15th, Venus at the beginning of the month, in the sign of Pisces. Now they're both moving back into Aries. Again, Venus and Mercury moving back and forth over Neptune and Saturn, over the Aries Point, over the moon's north node, where the forthcoming solar eclipse on March 29th is taking place. So much action at the latter degrees of Pisces, early degrees of Aries. So Venus, Mercury moved back into Aries 27th to 29th of this month. They already stationed. Okay. Now they're going to station direct in Pisces with this North Node Saturn-Neptune Pisces party. It is incredibly profound. And they're going to station direct the 7th Mercury, the 12th Venus, right on top of each other. We're talking about 24, 25, 26 degrees of Pisces. There is something very significant taking place, folks, with these particular retrogrades. This has to do with the stripping away of a particular direction. Maybe it is something that we were excited about. Maybe it was something that was a little bit selfish, or maybe it was just misled, but it really wasn't our essence. It wasn't our soul. It wasn't what we're really here to do in the deeper, more meaningful way. This particular retrograde between Mercury and Venus really wants us to go deep and really get into what's meaningful. Really get into what's spiritual. We're talking about charitable endeavors. We're talking about connecting the individual skill, Aries, what we're standing up and fighting for, Aries, what we're passionate about and defensive of, Aries, how we can connect that to some service or offering back to the greater whole, Pisces. That's what this whole retrograde is about. So when Mercury and Venus station direct in April, this can be very significant. This again is why you can join the astrology school on sale and get it on sale for as long as you're subscribed, but there's going to be much, much more than that. I'm hoping for charitable endeavors, the right people coming together, helping humanity out of the current quagmire that is somewhat to be expected. So let me now take us to a very, very bird's eye view. We're talking about what's going on March into April. Now let's back it up to the bird's eye perspective, because 2020 is when Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto all join together in Capricorn. And all of us astrologers were terrified of that aspect for years leading up to it. Most of us thought it would be a World War III. It ended up being COVID. There's a huge collective crash that follows the scare of 2020, which was this global apocalyptic-like event. So 2021, 2022, it's like the species is spinning out. Then 2024 to 2025, now we've got Pluto leaving Capricorn and entering Aquarius. and we're starting to get excited about the future. And we're now starting to witness things we've never witnessed before. Strange things, mind-boggling things, such as flying objects and disclosures of information we didn't see coming, as well as the overall changing of the global chessboard that many of us did not see coming unless you were an astrologer, and then you would know we are entering French Revolution-like times. Therefore, it would make sense at the front of a French Revolution-like time for there to be extremely oppressive forces. Now, when this really should have been was the tail end of Capricorn, but we still see Pluto sitting in the first few degrees of Aquarius. So this is still spring-loaded, wants to lift off. That's why I titled this year, A Spiritual Existential Crisis into the Rocket Ship's Front Door. I knew how challenging the first front of this year was going to be. Honestly, or if you're alive and awake and aware, you're probably going through a spiritual disillusioning experience if you're in a spiritual stage of evolution. If you aren't, you're not. You don't need to worry about it, therefore. It's not about better or worse. It's about having different experiences and how we can help each other through our diverse experiences. Well, all of this is going to lead to some type of reality meltdown. We could be in a time right now of incredible reality conflict. That's my guess, is we're looking out there in the world. It's like this person's in their reality, this person's in their reality, this person's in their reality. That's why this particular Mercury-Venus retrograde is to actually bring us back on a wavelength, essentially. Pisces, Neptune is all about essence. Core quintessence, to essentially connect with people on the same wavelength. We are meaning heart to heart, soul to soul, not just talking and pretending like how when I lived in Asheville, it was a fashion show and a trend mostly performed by people not even in spiritual evolution, aka it really was only a fashion show. That's not actual spirituality. So what it is we're getting into is, what is this deeper sacrifice? What are we being asked to give our life for in a meaningful way? Not in a way that's like a waste, not in a way that's a giving up or a losing of ourself or going on the back burner, being submissive to a narcissist who dictates the rest of our life as if that's what being a good, loving person is. No, that's enabling evil. Watch out for that one. Sometimes really, really nice people actually have the worst shadows because they are the most difficult to notice. And paradoxically, people who've got really ugly apparent shadows don't have a whole lot to hide. So in a funny way, they're actually safer. Huge, huge theme. Saturn-Neptune, all 2025. Reality versus appearances. Reality versus appearances. When I'm out here on a windy day and my hair is blowing around, people think I'm yelling at them. When I'm inside and I have my fancy microphone, people comment on how much they enjoy my voice. What the cover photo looks like, these are all wrapping paper. This stuff matters. In hypnotherapy, we know not just to say the right thing, but how to say it in the right way. Tone, pace, to wrap it up in the way that can be best received. But the point is, what something is in its essence is not necessarily what it parades itself around to be on the surface. That's going to be a huge theme, as many bubbles are certain to be burst throughout the rest of this year. These overly glamorous honeymoon vacation style escapes may very well just be that. They very well may be illusory. When Venus and Mercury station direct the first weeks of April, there is some renewal of the heart in a deep and a meaningful way. This is about understanding our place in the world. And you know what? Nobody's perfect. Nobody's got everything. But we've got something to offer to others. And when we find that, that is actually how we lift ourselves out of any ruts. Trust me, I've been in ruts people could hardly fathom. Some of you fathom, many don't. We think that we can get out of these ruts by calling on other people and then they don't show up. We're calling and trying to get the things we need and we can't. Sometimes we can't get ourselves out of the rut until we start to focus on how we help other people in the current rut we are in. And then sometimes mystically, magically, somebody tosses us a line and we find a way out of that rut. This is the type of Pisces magic I'm going to encourage us all to really lean into this year. We're going to be tempted to have it all perfectly figured out, organized, the taxes, the health, everything, and try to tune out other people, tune out the world. Blech. And it's going to be important for us not to go too far into what can be intolerance. Think of the growing racism on our planet. Think of the growing xenophobia. Growing intolerance and increasing sociopathy is not merely my concern. It is being markedly studied and observed as an actual phenomenon. This is what is going on. It has freaked the pants off of me. And currently, I'm planning on getting out of the South, probably going west, going back to school for psychology, because I can't think of a greater service back to humanity than trying to understand what is wrong with our species and provide the very best that I can to get us all back on track. Astrology is the best skill that I've ever come in contact with to do it. However, I am not taken seriously by literally 99.9% of all people on this planet, to the point of being very driven close to the edge of my sanity. It has actually reached a point where there's no way I can't continue to just be a talking head on YouTube for the rest of my life. I want to help the species. I'm seated upon things that could change others' lives. There needs to be a degree of taking these things more seriously. We live in a world, Saturn, where we prioritize the things that we build, the amount of grunt work we put in, as if being a slave and the standard of production is what it were all about. Whereas the most meaningful things that there are, such as learning astrology to understand the language of God, or charitable endeavors to provide food and security to others. I often quote the great saint Neem Karoli Baba was once asked, "How do I raise my kundalini?" He said, "Feed people, clothe people." These are the meaningful things that must be prioritized in a world that is all too convincing that we should shut all of that stuff out, that we should not care about future generations, that it is another apocalypse. And that goes back to the bird's eye view. I mentioned how 2020 was such an apocalypse period. Then Pluto went into Aquarius, 2024 to 2025. We started to get really, really excited about the future and what's starting to happen. And what are we in? Another apocalyptic feeling, another collective apocalypse. The definition of apocalypse, by the way, does not mean the end of the world. It is a particular part of a cycle. It is a particular part of a phase which is represented at the 0-degree Aries point. Our forthcoming solar eclipse on the 24th is on that Aries point. This whole video has actually been about this solar eclipse, despite me not mentioning that particular word too many times. Okay, so this is incredibly profound astrology. Again, I am incredibly honored to even have the opportunity to be the message delivery mailman for you today. Thank you so much for your support, for allowing me to continue to do this work. And there's so much work still to be done. So please, if you feel called in any way, tune in. Rasalila community, we will have our next Q&A under the solar eclipse on March 29th. We don't play around on the community. We understand that we are one with nature and all of our experiences are reflecting one another. So what we're cooking is really, really exciting stuff. And I got a lot on the back burner. I can't afford to have everything I've ever done wiped. I'm imagining future astrology apps And, since the core of the school is done, what that means from here on is there's going to be advanced lessons, there's going to be quizzes, you're going to get a badge next to your name once you complete the school, and then you get to join exclusive circles. We have an exclusive chat room with integrated astrology software. There's a lot of stuff that we got going, and I have the feeling the slingshot has not even lifted off. This is the year a spiritual existential crisis leads us into the rocket ship's front door. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the rocket ship's going to touch down. That front door may be opening up for us the first weeks of April. So be very, very kind to yourself. These eclipses have been no joke. That total lunar eclipse in Virgo a couple weeks ago was one of the most overwhelming, emotional look at the human condition, how humbling it actually is to be where we are. And so I will conclude on this note. It is not about the reward. It is not about the results. It is about the effort that matters. That is how God sees us. God sees us for the effort we put in. God sees us for everything that everybody else cannot see. So invest your soul in that. Nobody is perfect. We are not failures. When we miss our goals, it's not failure, it's feedback. And it means we simply go through an adjustment because we may not even know what the final goal actually is. We leave that up to Neptune. And Neptune is going to be leading us on a mystical journey of unfolding to discover what it is we are fated to be, which is to say, discover who we already are. Again, all the tools to make this all the more easy and useful is available. You've heard all about it. You know where to find me. If my YouTube disappears again, you know where to find me. I'll continue to be here, and I look forward to seeing you wherever this next time. So thank you to so much who have been extremely supportive this last several months. Your support has made all the world of difference, and it is what now allows me to continue this good work. May it serve all, and may all of your beloveds and yourself truly be taken care of in the most meaningful way.